In the small village of Belpore, there's a story that people only tell in whispers, usually after the sun has gone down. It's a kind of modern folktale, really, about a spirit that was born from incredible pain and a love that was never resolved. And that question, that's really the heart of the whole thing. It's a story where the lines get completely blurred between a mother's eternal love and a ghost's terrifying curse. So, where did this all start? Well, you see, by day, Belpore is a totally ordinary village. But when night falls, the locals say everything changes. It's like the very air holds its breath, terrified of what might be walking in the darkness. And the story they tell is always the same chilling sight. A woman, looking so deeply sad, cradling a baby, with her voice just drifting on the wind. But to really understand the question she's asking, we have to go back. We have to understand her story first. Because this isn't just some spooky ghost story. It's the story of a woman named Anjali. And for her, life was a living nightmare long before she ever died. So Anjali gets married to this man, Raghuvir. And she's hoping for what anyone would hope for, right? A new family, a new home. But that dream lasted all of a week. She figured out her reality really quick. She wasn't a daughter-in-law. She was just an unpaid servant, someone to be looked down on. And the abuse, it was non-stop. They mocked her dowry constantly, but the cruelty really ramped up when, after years of marriage, she didn't get pregnant. They publicly shamed her, calling her Banj, barren. Now, you gotta understand, in that culture, a woman's worth was so often tied to having children. So this wasn't just an insult, it was a condemnation. And the worst part? Her own husband, Raghuvir. He just joined right in with the humiliation. Instead of defending her, he'd complain out loud about his broken luck and compare her to other men's wives. And to really nail her down is the problem, the family just invented a lie. They told everybody, even Anjali's own parents, that a doctor had confirmed the fault was all hers. It was a complete, calculated, cruel lie. They never saw a doctor. So after 5 long years of this torment, something finally shifted. A moment that should have been a joyous miracle became, for Anjali, a cursed blessing. Anjali found out she was pregnant. And in that one moment, this tiny, fragile spark of hope ignited in her. You can just imagine her thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe if I can become a mother, they'll finally accept me. Maybe the abuse will stop. But that hope was shattered almost instantly. The family's reaction was just ice cold. They didn't care about her. They only cared about the heir she was carrying. To them, she was nothing more than a temporary vessel for their child. It gets worse. A doctor actually warned Anjali that she was so malnourished that she was endangering both her life and the baby's. But at home, absolutely nothing changed. She was still fed stale leftovers, forced to do heavy work, and the beatings from her husband just kept coming. Her body was literally wasting away, even as this new life was trying to grow inside her. All of this neglect and all of this cruelty, it was building towards a horrifying climax. It was a point of no return that would end up unleashing a force that no one could possibly control. One evening, the final line was crossed. It started over something as small as cold food, but it just exploded into violence. Raghuvir attacked his pregnant wife. She pleaded with him to stop, not for herself, but for their child. And then, silence. In the quiet that followed, her mother-in-law spoke 5 absolutely chilling words. Good, the trouble is over. There was no remorse, no funeral. They just dragged Anjali's body out to the field behind the house and buried her in a shallow grave. They say that even in death, her hands were wrapped around her belly, this final, useless act of protection. And then, the family just went back inside, washed their hands, and ate dinner. And in that unmarked grave, something else was born. In Indian folklore, the spirit of a pregnant woman who dies a violent death is known as a Garbhavati Atma. They're believed to be one of the most powerful and vengeful spirits, tethered to this world by a love that was never realized. So 3 nights went by in silence. Then, on the 3rd night, a sound started to fill the house. The unmistakable cry of a newborn baby. A baby that was never born. The haunting escalated with terrifying speed. They started seeing visions of Anjali stalking the courtyard, cradling her phantom child. Her screams of pain would echo through the halls. Sleep became impossible, as the very walls of the house seemed to turn against them, just saturated with her rage and sorrow. The power dynamic had been completely inverted. I mean, the family that once held absolute power over Anjali was now completely powerless against her spirit. And this is how folklore works so often, right? It gives a terrifying supernatural voice to those who were silenced in life. One morning, the three of them, Raghuveer and his parents, were found dead. They were in a room, locked from the inside, with no signs of a break-in. It was as if the very air had been stolen right from their lungs. Anjali had finally taken her revenge. Terrified, the villagers called in a mystic, and he confirmed their worst fears. It was Anjali's spirit. So, following his instructions, they dug up her body, gave her the proper funeral rites she was denied, and made offerings of things she had loved in life, hoping it would pacify her soul. But it didn't work. See, those rituals were meant to bring peace to the dead. But Anjali's spirit wasn't searching for her own peace. She was searching for something she had been robbed of. And so, the story continues. To this day, people in Belpur will tell you that when the moon is high, a cold wind sweeps through the fields, and the spirit of Anjali appears, still searching, forever trapped in the moment of her greatest loss. Because the question she asks over and over again from beneath that peepal tree, it isn't about revenge or justice anymore. It is the simple, heartbreaking question of a mother who never even got to meet her baby. Where is my child? A question that for her will never, ever have an answer.